Hi, I'm Sharon Wren,
And I'm Linda Cook.
and this is QC Crime Watch. This week we're going to be taking a look at some of the crimes that have happened over the past week and follow up on some of the court cases that we're following.
That's right. And we're also, as we always do, announcing that we are not attorneys. We understand you may need an attorney, but we cannot help you there. We cannot recommend, and we cannot act as attorneys. So, sorry, but
Yeah.
that is just not right for us to do.
You want people with training, not us.
Not us.
So,
Sharon, go ahead.
Oh,
You have
hi,
a really a kind of funny one, honestly.
Well, I'll start with the funny one then. A Davenport man was arrested earlier this month after the Iowa State Patrol found him in a vehicle that was reported stolen out of Clinton
Okay.
with 3 kids in the back
Ooh.
and marijuana.
Ooh.
Yeah, which by the way is not legal for adult consumption in Iowa. Yes, Iowa State troopers heard about a Mercedes-Benz that had been stolen out of Clinton on June 15th, about 9:30 at night. The suspect was identified as 45-year-old DeMar Johnson, who was reported to have a gun with him. So a trooper on Locust Street saw him, verified that it was the right car with the license plates and whatnot, waited for backup, which is always smart, and then they pulled the car over on Lincoln Avenue, asked Mr. Johnson to exit the car, which he did. He told them about the children in the back seat, ages 10, 9, and 6. So they got the kids out, they turned them over to family, the kids are fine. But in the meantime, troopers smelled marijuana in the car, conducted a probable cause search, and found what they described as a small amount of a green plant-like material behind the passenger seat.
Okay.
And an officer with the Davenport Police Department also found a bit of that same green plant-like material in Mr. Johnson's hair.
Okay.
He was released on a $3,500 bond and has an arraignment next Thursday on January 3rd. Oh, how? The hair, I mean...
I don't know. But we'll keep following this one, right?
Oh, yeah, but we
Okay.
may never know how
How that got from
he got
in his hair.
a plant-like material in his hair. We're not necessarily calling it marijuana, but chances are it wasn't clover.
Correct. So that's interesting.
Yes.
The whole situation is interesting. We'll keep following that one, right? Okay. Well, this is very recent. A 53-year-old woman from Mequon, Illinois, has been found guilty in connection with the discovery of a body in a storage unit. That happened in 2022. And in Knox County, there has been a bench trial. Now, I'll explain this too. A bench trial is when a judge makes the decisions, the trial proceeds. A jury trial is when a group of people, jurors, make the decisions.
Right.
So Marcy Oglesby was found guilty in a bench trial, after a bench trial, of attempted murder, and aggravated battery, ingestion of a toxic substance after this bench trial. The trial was held after the body of Richard Young, the former Mequon chief of police, was discovered in 2022 in a storage unit. Now, she hasn't been sentenced.
No.
So the sentencing is scheduled for September 3rd in Knox County Court, and a pre-sentence investigation has been ordered. So if we can make it to this, we may not be able to, but I would like to hear what this pre-sentence investigation report reveals. The trial was throughout the week, and a detective in 2023 at another hearing said that his name is Jeremy Moore. And Knox County Sheriff's Department Detective Jeremy Moore testified in 2023 that the body found in the storage unit was Young. Now, the Mequon police chief had been in a relationship kind of off and on with Marcy Oglesby. And Moore also testified about the night the body was discovered. An employee at the storage facility called law enforcement about a smell coming from the storage unit, and investigators contacted the facility owner. The detective said Young had been given substances that led to his death. So in other words, they believe he was poisoned.
Yeah.
At the home where Oglesby and Young lived with another person, so remember that, Moore said, investigators found evidence, including 25 eye drop bottles and receipts, 3 smartphones, 2 flip phones, and 2 laptops. Moore said Oglesby was trying to leave her relationship with Young. Now, this third person is Karen, I believe it's Dubé, and she has pretrial conferences July 7th scheduled for Knox County. She too faces charges in this death.
Yeah, this is
one of the strangest things I've ever written about.
Well, you got to wonder about the eye drops. I mean, there's one thing about stocking up, especially if there's a sale, but 25?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So I wish I knew more. Everything that we're talking about here today is based on court documents, not the two of us being in court. So maybe I can find out more when I do, and of course we will follow Dubé. Then maybe I can talk a little bit more about details that we just don't have at hand right now.
And we will be covering Oglesby's sentencing too,
Absolutely.
reporting on that.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, people who are in the Quad Cities may have heard about the Quad Cities Metropolitan Group, QC-MEG, and that's a... Lindy, do you know a better definition of what QC-MEG is?
It's a group of law enforcement officials from different agencies that form sort of, it's like a task force, kind of.
Yeah, but not like a SWAT team.
No.
Okay,
no.
Yeah, we got to get that definition. So, the folks with QC-MEG conducted an investigation the other day, and a man was arrested in East Moline on drugs and weapons charges. They conducted the investigation on June 25th, about 6 a.m., with the help of the East Moline Police Department and the East Moline Crisis Containment Unit. So this sounds like a lot of different agencies working together in different ways.
It is.
A gentleman by the name of Joshua McConnell, 38, was arrested on charges of unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon, possession with intent to deliver 15 plus grams of cocaine, and it's not something we hear about a lot these days, possession with intent to deliver cannabis between 500 and 2,000 grams, and possession of a stolen gun. And he's a felon, so he's not supposed to have any of the weapons.
Gun. Okay.
Oh, and even worse, he was on conditional release in Rock Island County for aggravated battery at the time of the investigation. So he is back in Rock Island County Jail on no bond while he waits an initial court appearance.
And now I want to point out that this is Illinois,
Yes.
and he's being held without bond. So this does happen. I hear people say, well, that doesn't happen in Illinois anymore.
Because of this, they call it the Safety Act.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So
It's not necessarily lower level crimes that are being kept in jail. It's, for lack of better phrasing, the doozies, the big ones.
Right. And it also depends on what that person's background is.
Right.
So if you think there's a threat to the community, then you say, well, this person really needs to be held here until they've seen a judge.
Right.
So I have a, not a violent crime, but a blue-collar crime that's kind of interesting here. A 33-year-old Columbus Junction woman was in custody after a state audit. And you and I talked about this while this was being written up. In May 2024, the Muscatine County Sheriff's Office was contacted by Conesville Mayor Tom Van Alken and City Clerk Carol Zuniga for concerns about former City Clerk Yamira Martinez. She was City Clerk for the City of Conesville from 2022 to 2024. Now, the Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Division started an investigation after this, and the City of Conesville requested a formal audit from the Iowa Office of Auditor of State. That audit covered this period from 2022 to 2024, and it's done now. And after the findings of the audit were revealed, Martinez faces these charges.
Do tell.
2 counts of ongoing criminal conduct, 2 counts of first-degree theft, 1 count of credit cards in violation of Iowa code, and 1 count of forgery. Martinez is accused of making more than $12,000 in improper or unauthorized personal purchases using a City of Conesville debit card. She's also accused of issuing herself 28 non-payroll checks from the city's bank account, many reportedly bearing forged dual signatures, totaling $40,807. So her bond was set at $100,000 cash. She may be out now, honestly, at this moment. I have not checked. Right. But this is the kind of blue-collar crime that I hear people say so often, there's really no victim. But there is, because everyone who paid taxes, in other words, there were people in Conesville paying license fees and paying taxes and supporting the city. And so she stole, if you think about it, from all those people, allegedly.
And Conesville is a very tiny town, with 350 people or something like that in the 2020 census.
Right, exactly. Now, she has a preliminary hearing on July 3rd, and the officials have said that there may be more charges filed. So we will continue to watch this blue-collar crime unfold.
And this one was kind of interesting to see the report, because it was a lengthy report, and they had the receipts. I mean, literally, there were receipts, there were transactions from Amazon listing what was purchased,
And
what
the
day.
one, tell me the one that you discovered, because you were the one who read this report. Was it not cowboy boots?
Two pairs of cowboy boots. One in separate months, like April and May.
Okay.
A pair of children's cowboy boots.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think the city was raffling them off.
No. So, and again, people question, what does the state auditor do? This is one of the things a state auditor does.
Right, because when a city has a situation where they're not sure about one of their employees doing things they shouldn't, it's good to have an outside person, so you can't say, well, the mayor's got it in for me or whatever.
Right.
So that's what the state auditor's office does. They not just criminal. They run the books on a lot of different cities and state groups, just to make sure everything's all right. But they can also get called in, like with Conesville.
Exactly.
Very detailed report.
Very detailed report. So we will continue to watch this one, and then this one is a sentencing. So it's very short.
Oh.
A 58-year-old bluegrass man has been sentenced to 216 months. That's 18 years if my math serves me, in federal prison for producing child pornography. Now that's different than just having possession of it.
That means you have the camera or the whatever. Okay.
That is correct. According to public court documents and the evidence presented at the sentencing, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received cyber tips that an account later determined to be associated with Christian Allen received, uploaded, and distributed files containing child sexual abuse material. So, the investigation revealed that Allen had produced and saved several videos of a minor victim. After completing his term of imprisonment, he will be required to serve an 8-year term of supervised release. There is no parole in the federal system. So if you want to know a little bit more about this arrest, it's part of Project Safe Childhood. That's a nationwide initiative to combat what is called, at least officials call it this, the growing epidemic of child sexual exploitation and abuse. This was launched in 2006, so it's a fairly new initiative.
Closing in on 20 years, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's
not
a traffic
that we've had
department
for decades.
Right. So if you want to, and I think every adult, every grandparent, every parent and teacher should know what this is. Look up Project Safe Childhood, and there are tips in there about keeping children safe, about what you can do just as a regular resident of the United States to help in this exploitation of children via the internet. I think that's really interesting. I think a lot of people may not realize that Project Safe Childhood exists.
But this is a great example to show that the tips that people call in and send in to these places, they turn around. They do something with them.
They do.
You get action on them.
Correct. It might take a little while, but they take this very seriously.
And that sort of thing
made me feel good to know that this is out there. I remember the first time I read about it.
Well, and this sort of crime, you definitely want to cross your T's and dot your I's, because you don't want an awful case like that thrown out because they didn't read them their Miranda rights, for example.
Correct.
Just some little thing like that. So it may take a while, but by golly, they're being careful.
Right. So with that, we hope you stay safe. We hope that you lock your car doors. We always say this at the end. Lock your doors, even if your car is out there in the parking lot for just a couple of minutes. Please
That's all they need.
That's all they need. So stay safe, and we will bring you some more. We know a couple of them that are coming up, but we won't talk about them yet.
So you have to tune in.
That's right. We'll bring you some more next week.